Film Commission, and been talking to a lot of people in town, and everybody's very excited if this comes to our. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Going once, seeing none, we'll move on to 7A. Discussion regarding Taos Main Street, providing funding to Taos County for the Taos Plaza. Charles, Taos Main Street. How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you, commissioners, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for giving me some time today. My name is Charles Whitson. I'm the director for Taos Main Street. I have to say, after looking at the agenda today, I'm honored to be here among some community leaders who are really doing some amazing work, transformational work in our community. So I'm just honored to be among some of the people here today. I'm really here today to talk about partnership, collaboration, and capital outlay. So I want to start by sort of setting the table a bit and talking just a bit about vision. So the vision for the plaza in our downtown. We believe that the historic Plaza District is for everyone. It is a safe, walkable, and bikeable place with a strong, diverse economy and thriving local businesses. It features vibrant and inviting public spaces where residents and visitors feel like they belong. At the core to our approach to revitalization is a commitment to creating places of shared prosperity, equal access to opportunity, and sustained inclusive engagement. So I'm not going to talk for too long today. I really just want to stimulate some discussion on this. But to do any of this stuff that I just stated in this vision, it really is much more about one organization building capacity. This is really about building a movement in our community to do this. We're going to need community members, businesses, nonprofits, cultural organizations, and governments to really work together to accomplish this. Our central strategy that Taos Main Street has laid out for itself, but also more as a community strategy to revitalize our downtown, is simply an inclusive, vibrant civic space. We want to reinvigorate the plaza as an inclusive, vibrant civic space for civic life of the whole community, particularly inviting and welcoming for families with children, youth, and seniors aging in place. So I'm just going to move into a little bit of background on the capital outlay now. We applied in July in partnership with the town of Taos. We applied through the New Mexico Main Street Capital Outlay Program in July of 2023. We were officially awarded in December of 2023. That award was for $1 million, and it was based on phase 2 of the plaza improvements, which were developed by the town of Taos and Living Design Group architects. The town completed phase 1, where they fixed all of the underlying infrastructure in approximately October of 2024. And the reversion date on this $1 million in capital outlay is June 2027. So this really just presents an opportunity to work together to do something that hasn't been done in decades. I've said this over and over, I think, to both bodies, but the last time there was a major plaza improvement was before I was born, and I think several members of the council as well. It wasn't that long ago, but I believe the plaque on the side of the Veterans Memorial says 1975 was the last time the major renovation was done. So I think this is already a joint town and county project. The town had already undertook phase 1 and spent a pretty good amount of money and time fixing the underlying infrastructure. So really, I just want to encourage us to come together. Like I said, it really is going to take all of us working together to do this. To come together to really make the plaza a more inviting place and once again a hub for community activity. So I think I'll end it there. I want to thank the commission and the council for its time, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Charles. I'm glad to see you here, and I'm a firm believer collaboration, town and county. This is great. You talked about phase one already being completed. Are you, is it your thought that the second phase, the money that is still there would be applied to the second phase? Or are we going to use it in a different manner? Is the town going to use it in a different manner?
I think that, again, this would be a discussion for both bodies, but we would like to see the money applied towards the second phase, which it was originally applied for and intended.
So just to follow up, Chair, if I may. So the grant, was it very specific to the plaza and the phases, or can it be moved around?
So it technically can be moved around, but that would require staff at New Mexico Main Street to have the money reappropriated by the state legislature, which is a complicated and cumbersome process. And their directive to me is exhaust all possible options of getting this money invested on the plaza for the project that it was originally allocated for, before we approach the conversation of reallocating it to a different project.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Charles. And I want to thank management on both sides for setting up a joint meeting. It's been a little while since we've had one, and very important because we have issues like this that involve both bodies on a part of town, a part of property that's very important to all of our community and all of our constituents. As far as the $1 million, my opinion, I think I'm open to working together to figure out how to spend it. That's the message that we're getting from the legislature right now is spend the money. So I think a reauthorization will be difficult and time consuming. We'd have to wait till next session. And although the partnership for the plaza has taken on a different scenario than what we were originally discussing a couple years ago, it doesn't mean that we can't come towards partnership in a different way. And I hope that type of partnership on the plaza would extend to other areas. We have talked about Filemon Sanchez Park and that sense of partnership. And the town is working very diligently to figure out a plan for that development. And then, of course, we had the Youth and Family Center fire that really threw a wrench in many of our decision making, because a lot of the funds that we were thinking were going to be dedicated to the park, now we're trying to have to balance two different and very important parts of town infrastructure that address youth programming. So I'm hopeful that we can find a partnership between the two of us, and I'll let the council weigh in on their ideas and whether they would like to see this $1 million be moved around. And I think outside of logistics that we would have to leave to management on how we actually get the money to move, because it was awarded to the town, even though Taos Main Street has capital outlays. Do I have that right, Charles? That the town accepted the $1 million?
Correct. However, due to the circumstances that unfolded with the ownership of the plaza, a grant agreement was never actually signed. So process-wise, a resolution from the town would enable the state to enter into a grant agreement with the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Charles. Just real quick, is the remaining money, what exactly is that supposed to be spent on as it stands now and per the original grant agreement? Is that more like of the underground infrastructure work?
No, that's mostly above ground stuff. So my recollection of the planning document that again was created by Living Design Architects called for a refurbishment of the gazebo, addressing some electrical issues, addressing accessibility issues with sidewalks and new ramps to make things a little easier for folks who are challenged, have mobility challenges. And it did a kind of alert to possibly reducing the footprint of the Veterans Memorial, just maybe removing some walls and making it a bit more accessible as well. So all above ground improvements. Typically, their capital outlay program doesn't fund anything under the ground. They want the municipalities to fix that piece, and then they like to come in and support whatever gets built on top of it.
Go ahead, Commissioner Beatty.
Brent, have you seen the plans from what came out of the town versus what we were thinking?
No, it's the same, Chair Mascarenhas, Commissioner, Miller, it is the same set of plans. So it's everything that this commission is spoken with Mr. Patterson about, that site visit we did at the plaza. So it's everything in there, redoing the gazebo, roof, the sidewalks, extending out parts of the gazebo, making that ADA compliant. Down the road, we'd like to do some sidewalk improvements, the lamp post improvements, and taking down those walls. So everything that Taos County has discussed with Mr. Patterson is still in line with that. So when Mr. Whitson came to visit us about a week or so ago, we showed him the plans. He goes, yeah, this is exactly what we were already talking about. So there's nothing different. So it's everything the commission has heard in the past.
Just a follow-up here, Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Is the 1 million sufficient to get that project completed with the plans?
So it's $1 million plus a match grant of $250,000. Taos County has the match and non-promotional lodgers tax funds. And any improvements, before Charles met with me, we were going to fund ourselves and do it piecemeal out of non-promotional lodgers tax.
Okay, and if I may ask, because our mayor mentioned that, you mentioned the Filimon Park. So can you, Mayor, speak to what your thoughts are there?
For any technical questions, I'll ask management to answer that. I know they've been working hard, but in terms of what the partnership would look like, we're looking at a bonding for a number of years, depending on what improvements we want to make. But a partnership could look like helping us with that bond over a period of time, and that largely would come out of non-promotional lodgers tax as well. So even if some of it, if the $250,000 match for the plaza comes out of non-promotional this year for the county, we could look at a long-term partnership that doesn't take out of this year's budget, but in future years' budget. And technical questions, I'll leave to Assistant Manager Flores.
Chairman Mascarenhas, Mayor Maestas, Mayor Pro Tem,
Hit it again, turn it down. There you go.
members of the commission, members of town council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you today. So we're making a lot of headway with Filimon Sanchez Park. We have engaged Living Design Group architects, Doug Patterson, to go ahead and commence designs for the new facility. Currently, as of this week, our Parks and Recreation Department has relocated some pinon trees that were at the Filimon Sanchez property to the Eco Park property in preparations for the renovations to commence. We have already done an environmental survey of the property for lead and asbestos testing, just to make sure that as we move forward with demolition and so forth, that there's no environmental concerns. We are currently engaging a consulting company to do an environmental assessment of the land itself to make sure that we are in compliance with all federal funding and state funding. I just recently received an update from Doug Patterson this morning. He says a topo survey of the existing complex was completed by Abeta Engineering. Grading and drainage design of the proposed build-out has been completed. We are beginning our specific detail sheets for the individual softball fields. Parking and circulation design has been completed. Electrical engineers have been engaged for site lighting. We need to locate and determine the size and type of the restroom and concession building that we intend to build. So we're moving quite quickly with the project. We understand that it's going to be a a good need and of good use for the community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, may I? Thank you. We're so excited to be here. Thanks for having us on your dais. Feels extraordinarily official. I can speak closer. There you go. Your mics work really well too. I'm usually too loud as it is. Thank you, Anissa. I've been involved with Main Street, or I was involved with Main Street at the inception. I served on the board. I served as the chair of the board. I am so excited about this moment for Main Street. I'm excited that the town and the county are partnering with Charles. It's an opportunity for us to start to really work together collaboratively and then continue to do that. I personally would really like to see this capital outlay money spent where the intention was when it was applied for. And that is on the infrastructure or the above ground infrastructure of the Plaza Park. I'd like to see that money get spent. I'd like to see it done well. And I'd like to see us all in Main Street go out to get more money to do more projects. And this has been a long time coming, and that's why I'm so excited, because Main Street was conceived about 7 years ago, and this will be the first really big project that Taos Main Street does that has a visual outcome for the community. So the sooner we do it, the sooner we'll get more community buy-in, the sooner Main Street will continue to get more support from volunteers and other organizations, like Charles said, and we'll see the results of years of efforts really start to ricochet around the community and multiply. So I really support that. And I want to add to that, that while the town of Taos does want lots of partnership with the county, I'd like us all to get into a habit of agreeing to do a project for the sake of doing that project and not a quid pro quo kind of agreement. We want your help with Filimon Sanchez. We want your help with the Youth and Family Center. We want your help with everything, but we want your help. I personally believe we want your help for those projects specifically because they're worth doing and because we're all going to buy in for the constituency that we all serve together. So I support this project that you are continuing to get done, and I look forward to seeing lots of people on the plaza because there's so much access. Thank you.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes, collaboration actually is the name of the game for a number of issues that we're facing. And with regard to the plaza, the design is done. The money is there. I think we need to move forward to spend it. What are the logistics we need to follow to get it done? And when was the money actually allocated? And when does it have to be spent? What's the date that we lose it if we don't use it?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Romero. So a few things here. First and foremost, the revision date on the money is June 2027. So we have until then, until the state will officially attempt to claw the money back. I believe some more good news in terms of a match. I consulted with Daniel Gutierrez, from the director from New Mexico Main Street, and he indicated to me that because of the possibility for this really being a joint project between the town and the county, and because the town had already made a really significant investment on the first phase of the project, that they would be willing to honor the town's investment, which is far beyond the matching requirement, as the matching requirement. So he indicated to me that the county would not need to come up with an additional $250,000 in matching funds, since we already had such a robust investment from the town of Taos.
What are the logistics? Who has to do what?
Logistic-wise, as far as entering into a grant agreement with the state, the town would just have to come up with a simple resolution And then we would submit that resolution to the state, and then they could officially enter into a grant agreement with the county for the county to receive the funds and spend the funds on said project.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I didn't know when I get a turn. I'll be real quick about it. No, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Taos County, for having us here. I know Chairman, Commissioner Romero asked about logistics, and I understand that side. I know that there's one thing that we don't want to do is have a hurdle with something that's a technical thing without knowing it, and us all up here thinking it's going to happen next week, that we're going to get a resolution on our next meeting and we're going to get it to you guys and we're going to go forward. I have no problem going forward with that $1 million. There's two things about it, just double checking what the actual plan is around the area where the sidewalk is, because I did hear from not staff right in front of me, but other staff that sidewalk still may be the ownership of the town of Taos. I don't know if Taos County has an actual survey done recently or if it's just the deed from the 1930s. So who knows what happened in the 1930s. So that's just, I just don't, we know how those legal technical things can hold up something that we know is very important. That's just the only thing that I have, that and the electrical, who's the owner of that infrastructure. And the next thing is thinking in the future about phase 3, because I know the town, we're thinking about this $1 million, not turning it over to the county to use it on our portion of what Main Street had. I think phase 3 is the alleyways and looking at that area. So if we're in agreement to allow Taos County to take the money, do what phase 2 said, what the town had in mind on the plaza area, to start working on phase 3 of design of whatever we want. We're going to have a beautiful internal plaza, and our external plaza is going to look like a poop. You know, it's not going to look presentable, but we're going to have this beautiful community area. So that's just start looking in the future. Let's look at that, a plan to start working on that. So when we spend this money by June of 2027, we're ready to apply for money for the next phase. And we're all talking right here and saying, okay, that sounds good for now the town of Taos to be part of this other project, and we may get that money at that point in time. And so, and just hoping that the county has the capacity to run another $1 million grant, because I know we're both taxed with capacity on our grant side. So just those are my main concerns, but totally going forward with this and going forward and making sure that the community, we spend this money, because we do not want to return it. So thank you for all your work on this and getting it forward. And those are just my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? Sure.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Councilor Ortega.
Oh, no.
No, I was like, ask away, Commissioner Vigil.
Okay. Curiosity here. So in a perfect world, let's say the money, we're able to get it over to the county. What's the timeline in getting that project complete? Because I have to ask because of what we have seen and the stress that gets created when we're trying to, fix something up. I'm just wondering what we're looking at.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vigil, Mr. Patterson's currently in the pricing phase of this. So after we met with Mr. Whitson, I did email him and say, okay, this is your new budget. Coincidentally enough, that week he was asking what the best final budget was for pricing. So we're looking to hire a contractor with a price agreement to do the work. Our goal is to do the gazebo, the ADA improvements, and some other small improvements, the wall improvements. This year, some of it's going to have to be phased. Our goal is to be out of there before the 4th of July and by the end of June. And because right after the 4th of July starts Taos Plaza Live. So the chamber is continuing there, so that's what our goal is. There's a couple of construction companies that have price agreements that generally work with Mr. Patterson, so that's what we're gonna look as the state price agreement.
Thank you for the consideration of what's to take
So,
place.
yeah, regardless of this, that was the plan, so now we're able not to do so much piecemeal like we were planning to do.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, may
Go ahead, Councilor Day.
Hi, Charles. Could you elaborate a bit more in terms of the future funds that are available to us as a community, town and county, as it relates to Main Street? Because I know prices, like every time we think about these amazing projects, the first thing we have to be realistic is our funding. And I know in the past, in sitting some of these sessions, there was like a huge encouragement to be like, keep going forward. Don't hold back. So if you could elaborate to the entire body of what Main Street entails and can commit to, and what you've seen kind of unfold in your long journey in this project.
Sure, Councilor Ortega, thank you for that question. So far, and I couldn't tell you exactly how many years in a row it's been, but New Mexico Main Street has been getting a $10 million capital outlay appropriation from the legislature, which they in turn grant out to Main Street programs across the state. They have been in discussions about possibly increasing that ask, but as far as we can project, like there will continuously be capital outlay funding that we will be able to apply for in the future. I can tell you from experience and seeing other communities particularly communities who have success in spending those capital outlay monies and making those critical public infrastructure improvements in their district. The communities that demonstrate that capacity tend to get more because they know it's in good hands. So if we can demonstrate that we can take this money, collaboratively work together, get it spent, improve our plaza, I think within a couple of years we could easily go back for more for a continued phase, as Councilor Fambro suggested. And if I could add just one more thing, something that a role that Taos Main Street certainly will be happy to play in this process. We know that all of our businesses along the main road, particularly our businesses downtown, have been hit very hard by this construction project. And I think the idea of more construction might be a little tough. But as Manager Jaramillo stated, if we can phase this project in a smart way, I think the community will be much more receptive to it. And we would like to help the county and the town play the role of really engaging and communicating with the community on this project. I think the more engagement, the more information we can give to the community, the more people will understand what's happening, when it's happening, and when it could potentially be done. So that's a role that we certainly intend on helping play in this project.
Thank you, Mr. Whitson. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, one final comment.
Go ahead.
And when everybody starts giving Taos County flack, the town of Taos has to be part of that flack too. So if we're going to do a joint project together, we have to take the criticism together if that's what it is. So I'll make that promise on me personally, and I'll try really hard to do that, but because we're going to get it. And so if they're going to get it, we're going to get it too. So that was just my final comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Moving right along to 7B, discussion regarding Cultural Treasures Project, discussion and opportunities for collaboration. Jessica Stern.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Council members. There are so many of you. It's great to see you all here. I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss the Cultural Treasures Project, I realized I had not had the opportunity to share with the town council about this incredible project that we're working on. And so this serves as an update for our commission and then to introduce this very special project to you all. Councilwoman Oswald is deeply involved in this, so thank you, Commissioner Behill, thank you. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, so settle in. But I've got some good information. Is Anissa? She's there. I can't see her. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit about this project. The Cultural Treasures Project is designed to conduct a cultural and outdoor asset mapping study that will create a research-informed approach used to embody community-focused equitable economic development. I've got all my buzzwords in this slideshow today. Over time, we believe that this work will shift the nature of economic development in our rural community to one that balances the reality of externally driven development interests, which we know are around us all, and balance that with locally led, culturally relevant, environmental, and sustainable growth. The project aims to identify both tangible assets, that means trails, waterways, physical places, venues, and intangible assets. Those are stories, places that only exist in memory, language, things that hold intrinsic value to our county residents. And that the project aims to preserve the county's rich cultural and land-based lifeways while ensuring sustainable development and, again, equitable resource distribution. There are 5 outlined project objectives. One, again, is really simply to identify these assets and to map them. We want to collect the data. The second is to engage our community. We'll be conducting participatory mapping and storytelling sessions throughout the rest of this year, and I'll get into the work plan to collect this info. So we plan to engage hundreds and hundreds of community members across the county to collect their stories, to understand what is of value to them, what needs to be preserved and safeguarded, and where there are opportunities for economic growth. And also in this community engagement, we believe that this will engender local pride and education about our own community. In terms of sustainable development, this project is really designed to identify and recommend policy and educational opportunities to guide stewardship-based tourism and a broader approach to economic development. So again, let's think more beyond deal structuring and into really that deep community-based, locally led economic development. This is going to be deeply integrated with the Destination Stewardship Network and all of the framework around that. I really believe that this is going to create a next wave of research and information for the destination stewardship for the years to come in that plan. In terms of public accessibility, one of the primary outcomes of this project is that we're going to be developing a publicly accessible mapping tool and online resource available for the community members, organizations, and visitors. This will be a GIS map that will have pins. You can point and get more information. There will also be story maps. So we're looking at different journeys around natural resources, cultural resources, and how people can engage and learn about where that natural resource starts and how that turns into a cultural treasure and into an economic driver, which is pretty cool if we think about that. And then economic recovery. Again, we're looking at this to formulate economic development recommendations and inform future economic development plans. This can also be a data set for disaster recovery. If we know what we're looking at, then we can understand how to safeguard it and how to recover from it. Ultimately, I think with any part of my job and that of economic development is to expand the tax base. That's the down and dirty, right, of economic development. There are many ways we can go about doing that. My goal, my values, and that of this project is really to create that in a community-led, participatory way. Next slide, please. Okay, so I wanted to go a little bit higher level again to kind of introduce this subject. I've actually been around the world of cultural assets and research for about 6 years. So I'm going to read this very academic definition, but kind of try to bring it home. Cultural mapping is an instrument for collecting, locating, and systematizing information concerning the distribution of cultural expressions within a certain territory. For us, that's Taos County. It cannot be seen merely as a technical or neutral mechanism, as it is strongly influenced by the objectives of whoever performs it or contracts it. That's us. Such objectives are rarely confined to a purely intrinsic vision of culture. We're not doing this for fun, but rather they generally have more strategic ambitions of improving the potential of the object of analysis, which is the county, to contribute to development, be it economic, human, or community development. And some things that this can do, we have our objectives, but I also wanted to provide some really concrete examples of other cases out in the country that have done this work. There have been a couple of cases where cultural asset mapping and outdoor asset mapping have informed policy agendas and land use. In Santa Monica, in the historic Black neighborhood in the zip code 90404, they used their cultural asset mapping study to create a Black policy agenda with the city of Santa Monica in order to preserve spaces in that neighborhood that were being lost due to gentrification. In York County, Pennsylvania, they conducted an outdoor asset mapping study during the pandemic, which led to protection of their culturally significant outdoor spaces. Again, where they saw a huge population influx, similarly as we have, and they used that study to inform their planning documents. It can create pathways for public funding. In the city of Austin, they did a cultural venues asset mapping study, which mapped over 3,000 cultural venues. It ended up creating a $12 million cultural venue bond. In New York City, Hugh Arts NYC, which is an organization specifically designed to advocate for Black, Indigenous, and people of color led and serving cultural organizations, their cultural asset mapping study uncovered that the city, we kind of knew this, I was living there at the time, was the way that public funds in the city budget were investing in arts institutions was primarily going to white led and serving organizations. And so that study created the advocacy platform to insert a line item in the city budget specifically for minority cultural organizations. It can educate developers, civic leaders, and elected leaders. In Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts, which is a rural regional community that did a study, it was led by a community. Will now be recorded. Great. It was led by a community foundation and a planning department, and created a whole new framework for infusing cultural planning into land use planning and the planning department as a whole. And they also involved youth and created what did they call it? It was a kind of a lookbook of all of this youth generated art that was based in how the youth interpreted their cultural assets in the community. It's very cool. And then this can strengthen relationships and build social cohesion. We're already seeing this in our advisory group, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. The relationships that are being built just among those 17 people across rural communities across the county. There's new trust being built. There's healing that's happening. I'm really looking forward to taking this work out into the broader community and having really beautiful discussions with people. Not always easy discussions, but really productive. Next slide, please. Okay, so why are we doing this now? There was a pandemic. It happened. A lot of people moved here. I think we're all hearing that there's a need to balance heritage and preservation with the reality of growth and the need for growth. We need economic growth. It's happening, but we can create a balance. Quantitative economic data is powerful. We need it, we use it, but it doesn't always tell the nuance, and it doesn't tell the whole story of the people who live in a community. And that's what asset mapping can do. Again, we're going to align this with destination stewardship and the MRA. And then the Economic Recovery Corps, which I'll talk about in a second, provided a very unique opportunity. And Contessa and I want to recognize Contessa, who's our fellow on this project, we often say that we cannot safeguard that which we cannot identify. We don't know what it is. We don't really know what direction we're going in. Next slide, please. So the Economic Recovery Corps, which is how this came about, is a new program. It's a fellowship program through the Economic Development Administration that aims to build capacity in economically distressed areas across the U.S. while cultivating the next generation of economic development leaders. There were 65 host communities chosen out of 500 proposals, 65 fellows selected out of 1,400 applicants. Congratulations, Contessa. And it's a $30 million investment from the EDA. There are 6 national resource partners. It's a 2.5-year project. Taos County was the only New Mexico community that was chosen. But one of the things that we want to do is create a model and a toolkit for other rural communities across the state to do this work. Next slide, please. Okay, here's our team. It's me. Hi. Contessa, who is our fellow, was selected again from over 1,400 applicants. Amazing. We're so lucky to have her with her long, yes, multi-generational, multi-century family history in this community, and her work on the Destination Stewardship Plan. Could not have asked for a more beautiful fit and person to be part of this project. We have brought on a number of consultants to help us with this. The Alliance for California Traditional Arts does national work despite their name. They are run by public folklorists and researchers who created methodology to do participatory asset mapping around intangible cultural heritage. So they know how to get to the heart of what is of value to people. To do the actual map, the GIS map, we're going to be working with the Earth Data Analysis Center at UNM. I'm really excited about that. And then to do all of our beautiful graphics, branding, communications, we're working with Gizmo Productions. I know we all love and adore. Next slide, please. I mentioned our advisory group. This group of individuals is incredible. And again, thank you, Commissioner Vigil. Thank you, Councilwoman Oswald. Contessa and I worked really hard to think about a broad intersection of representation of geography, sector, gender, race, age, all different kinds of representation in our community. And these 17 individuals have brought such incredible energy and passion and value to this project. They are going to be our trusted messengers out into the broader communities when we get into community engagement. And we are also resourcing these individuals, those who are not public servants, are resourcing them for their time. And that is part of the fundraising that we've done around this. We want to let people know that we value their time and energy. And so we are providing honoraria to do that, which is something I believe we should be doing as much as possible in all spaces. Next slide, please. And this is a great map that Contessa put together. The red pins show where our advisory group members are from in the county. We're talking about some of the blank spaces in your district, Commissioner Vigil. But that's also part of this, is continuing to identify gaps in not just geographic areas, but again, we want to make sure we have broad representation. But we're really proud of this. We've got folks from all over and are moving our advisory group meetings to these different communities so that people get to go and they get to travel and they get to see their neighbors in the county. Next slide, please. I'm not going to read through all this because it's a lot of words on a slide, but did want to at least give you an overview of the work and how it's happening. We are in phase 2 in 2025. The bold type is what we are working on right now, which is really creating that work plan for the rest of the year to go out into community and to collect information and to engage people. We want to conduct all of our community engagement activities. We're going to begin to build the ArcGIS map with EDAC, and then need to launch all the communications and web around that. And then we're still raising money, which I'm also going to talk about in a little bit. In phase 3 in 2026, by the way, this timeline is going to shift a little bit. We're going to add a couple months to the end of this just due to different circumstances, which will be supported by the ERC. But 2026 is really our big data analysis year, wrapping up, building the map, public launch, and then getting into those policy recommendations, which I'm really excited about. Next slide, please. Okay, we can't have a project without a budget. So when Contessa and I were building our budget, our initial thought about this was not including the contribution of the fellowship or my time, that we would aim for almost a $650,000 project. It's a really big price tag, but wanted to do a lot of really amazing broad things. Contessa's fellowship has a value of just $225,000. I've not calculated my staff time or the kind of in-kind support of administrative oversight of the county, but it's generous. To date, we've received just over $250,000 in cash. Unfortunately, we were not awarded a couple of really key grants. If we had been, we would have been closer to the $450,000 range. So part of why I wanted to share this with you is because we want to partner with the town on this. And this is such an important project, is really engendering a lot of excitement and I think some need for the way that we move forward in economic development. We are waiting to hear from the National Endowment for the Arts on a grant. And then I want to give incredible gratitude to the county for $213,000 of cash contributed to this project so far. I also want to thank Councillor Oswald for committing some discretionary funds. Thank you. Your funds are going to help pay for the initial printing of signage and visibility. Thank you for doing that. I also want to invite other council members to invest their discretionary funds, and I'm happy to talk about what that could look like with you. I have put up some priority funding needs, and again, these funding needs around the community engagement and the marketing are really about getting this project out in front of people, getting people talking, recording their information, making agreements with them about what is going to remain private and what is going to go on the map. And I don't want to be remiss in not mentioning that we take really seriously the information that people are going to share. And if people say, I want to share this, I want you to know this, but don't put it on the map, then we're not going to put it on the map. We don't want to perpetuate ruining spaces or sacred spaces, but we do want to find a balance of what we can share. So that is very much part of this project. I also want to call out the Lore Foundation has been an incredible partner in this, the Northern Rio Grande National Heritage Area, and then of course Taos County and funding through the American Rescue Plan. I've got a little space for the town logo up there. Yeah, it can go right there. That's for you all. But I, in addition to considering discretionary funds of the council members, I would love to have conversation with you all about funding in your FY26 budget and how we could partner with you all on this. I will also say that unfortunately, the Economic Recovery Corps is under review by the federal administration right now. This is an equity-based program that it could have the plug pulled at any time. And so I want to be really clear and serious about that we have committed an enormous amount of financial resources and time. Other funders have. We want to see this project through. It is a very real possibility that all 65 of those fellows could lose their contracts. And so if that happens, I really do want to have a conversation about how we work together as a community to make this project happen. And even if that doesn't happen, let's have that conversation anyway. Last slide, please. And then this is just a little bit of, we've gotten some good press and media from the ERC directly. We were featured in the NACO County News March 3rd edition. And then I want to congratulate Contessa for applying to speak at the National Americans for the Arts Convention in June. And we will be going there with Ilona Spruce and hopefully one of our consultants from Alliance for California Traditional Arts. So we're really excited to bring this work to the national level. And I think, last slide, I think that's all. I'm happy to stand for any questions. And if you have questions of Contessa, know she's happy to come and speak on behalf of this project.
Any questions from anyone? Concerns, comments? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Contessa. And congratulations to the county. This sounds like a really great project. I think having Contessa be able to transition from the Destination Stewardship Plan over to this project where there is a lot of alignment, I think strengthens this partnership between town and county. And a special thank you to you, Jessica. I know you've been part of the Destination Stewardship Plan since its inception and continue as one of the core team members and part of the
I'm on
finance subcommittee. Yeah, you raised your hand like 3 times today when we're going through the committees. And just shout out to you, Contessa. All the work that you did to create trust in the Destination Stewardship Plan blends right into this project. And I know we're talking a lot about DSP, and that's next on the agenda, but These two have so much alignment that I'll say for myself, and I think the council is going to back me up on this to say that we're bought in on this too. This is the perfect time to ask. We're getting ready to go through budget season. And just a quick plug that Hotel Willa is opening soon. I hope to see some additional lodgers tax funds next year, which means we might have some capacity to help out and make sure that this project is seen through all the way. And very sorry that you have to worry about the federal government pulling the plug. Very
Thank you, Mr.
unfortunate.
Mayor.
But thank you both.
Mr. Chair, may I? Thank you. Thank you for giving the council and the commission a presentation on this project. Working on this project has been fulfilling in a way that very few things I've ever worked on have been fulfilling, and we are just beginning. There is so much culture, history, and value in our county, and I am so town-centric, like really town-centric, like I am outside of my habitat right now. And it is so fun for me to learn about all of the wonderful things that exist in our region. It would be devastating for this project not to be completed. The outcomes that will come from this effort will have years of positive repercussion. So I strongly ask the council to consider putting something in our budget for this project for 2026 and going forward. It was an honor to offer up some discretionary funds for some marketing materials because we've had a lot of fun talking about shovels. Maybe we can see that logo again. We've got a really nice logo with a great shovel.
There are going to be shovel keychains in your near future.
Yes, we have a very nice logo with a really nice shovel that we all got really excited about. And so if that is where we're starting, boy, we have some great stuff coming for you all. So thank you for sharing this exciting work. And I know we all look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Oswald.
Commissioner Vehil.
Yes, so I will not repeat what she just said because she said it very well. I wanted to add that there's been such thoughtfulness put into this project and such sensitivity to the culture and the traditions and the community that I will agree that this is one of the best, the most, I think, fulfilling boards that I sit on. And I think it was said that there's been a lot of trust that has been built and some healing. I didn't realize that I fell in that category until we started working through it. So just want folks to know that I agree. We don't want this to stop. And I think that the community is going to see at the end of this project the sensitivity and how we put their, what matters most to them, that we were very careful in putting that out there. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Avila.
Councilor Fambro.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jessica. So in anticipation, and hopefully it doesn't go away, what percentage are you guys complete with it money-wise and project-wise?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Fambro, that's a really great question. And part of our challenge with this project has been securing the funding. I think I might be able to answer that question more concretely in a couple of weeks when we find out about the National Endowment for the Arts grant, hopefully sometime in April. NEA is a whole other thing if anybody wants to get into that later. I would say that in terms of the work plan, we're probably a third of the way through because we've laid the foundation. We need to go out into the community and collect the data and then analyze and build all of the outputs of this project. So we're still early in the actual work. Funding-wise, having the investments from the county's American Rescue Plan funds really has solidified the foundation of this, as well as from the Lore Foundation. The Lore Foundation allowed us to resource the advisory group at the beginning, which allowed us to start doing the project. The American Rescue Plan allowed us to hire Alliance for California Traditional Arts and do the very first build out with EDAC of the website. So we have a really strong foundation that is not going to go away. However, if we do lose Contessa and the fellowship, there will be a real capacity need. I'm the project director overseeing her work, but it was never intended to be, fully on my plate. And so we would need to have conversations about filling that capacity need.
Okay. Yeah, and I just think it's important to have plan A, which you already have, and plan B if everything goes away, so
Right.
that you don't lose the third of the work that you've already done and try to continue it. And that means a bigger pot of money from the town and from yourselves, but you might have $250,000 from your if we can match the $1 million. So keep that in your pocket, manager. I'm just helping us out. I'm helping you guys out. So if you guys have that, well, at least don't give it up. Just telling you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fambro.
Councilor
Mayor.
Ortega.
Yes, I know. Sitting next to you at regular chambers. Quick question, assuming the best case scenario, which will be manifesting all of us.
Yes.
What does capacity still look like in that situation? Because at the moment it's you and Miss Contessa. And so seeing the breadth of our county, which is so huge and so abundant in all these things and categories that you're referencing, what will we also need to be considering for additional staff or contracts, or what are you already envisioning the needs being for a functioning effort? Because what I wouldn't want to have happen is we have all these things funded, and like with many things town and county face is not enough staff. And so how we can navigate that piece, because then we have all these really cool assets and the deliverable then gets caught up in it's still only you and Contessa. So I get that there's a chance that there's not either of that, but also even with the two of you, I'm assuming that's not enough.
Councilor Ortega, thank you so much for that question. It is enough, because the beauty of this project is that we built this incredible advisory group, and we have those consultants. And so, Contessa, even though I'm up here talking, she is really the one out there making this happen. And so, assuming that the ERC funding is maintained, I believe we do have the capacity, and it was built in that way, to have one full-time person with my support, and then the support of the advisory group. Again, we've resourced those folks. They are going to be, we've already started in our group for them to identify folks to tap in their communities. So part of what will happen in May, the Alliance for California Traditional Arts, Amy and Betty, who are our two consultants, will be here for a week. They're going to be training our advisory group on how to do these participatory asset mapping workshops. The advisory group members are going to train their community members on how to do these, so that when our consultants go back to Fresno and LA, and Contessa and I are running around the county, setting up events and tabling at events, we also have this incredible support network of people and their community members. So that is how this is built, is really to be deeply collaborative and supported by the community. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and commission, before the opportunity passes, I think we should all give a round of applause to Contessa for that grant application.
Thank you for that. Moving right along to 7C, discussion regarding the destination stewardship updates and support needed. Jessica.
Hello, Mr. Chair and Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to step aside and let our new Destination Stewardship Network manager, Jessie Hook, come and speak on this. And I'm here to support if she needs it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was, thank you. The town and county have, again, another wonderful collaboration, worked to collaborate with Taos Main Street to create a really interesting fund agreement process. So thank you, Town of Taos, for navigating that, and thank you, Charles, with Main Street, who's not here anymore. Oh, is he back there? Oh, hi, Charles. Okay. And so through that process, worked to hire Jessie as a contractor. She is hired through Taos Main Street, and it was a really wonderful process to go through that application and interview process. So yes, did I get it? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Mascareñas and Mr. Mayor Maestas and the commission and the council. I'm really honored to be here. My name is Jessie Hook, and I'm the new network manager for the Destination Stewardship Network. I wanted to talk a little bit about my background, introduce myself, and why I'm excited to be collaborating on this project and bringing a wonderful plan into action. So first off, wanted to start by telling you a little bit about me. I started my career in education. I was a teacher and transitioned from that into conservation work, which brought me to Taos. I worked with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps back in 2019, although I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, so still a relatively new member of this community. From there, during the pandemic, I worked with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps in their office and did a lot of work in capacity building and nonprofit development. From that experience, I decided to go get my master's in business administration degree with a focus on sustainability, to look at how can we leverage business to bring missions to reality and to fruition. So with that, I had the honor of working with other nonprofits in northern New Mexico, such as Quivira Coalition and Taos County Economic Development Corporation, wonderful organizations in our community, which eventually brought me here. And I could not be more excited and honored to continue carrying the torch, which was lit by a huge collaborative effort of everyone sitting up here, and led by, of course, Contessa again, and all the amazing work she did in community of engaging folks, developing trust around a very touchy subject, which is tourism, and how tourism can be a part of our economic puzzle, but not necessarily the sole economic part of our puzzle, which is our economy. So yeah, huge thanks to the team that got us here, 2 years of work, to George Washington and the Crest team, again, to Contessa, to everyone who's been a part of the network. I couldn't be more excited to work with everybody. Just to go over a little bit of the data, I'm sure you're all very familiar with it, but with the plan, we have the Destination Stewardship Plan. It's 117 pages of ideas and information that were gathered over those 2 years. That only happened because we had over 3,300 people in our community take a survey. And we've all seen a lot of surveys come and go in our community, and that is a lot of respondents. Average is usually around 500. So I think I just want to underline how many people made this plan come to fruition and made this network come to fruition. Out of those 3,300 people, 80% say we rely on tourism, but 58% say they are not satisfied by the job opportunities that are available in our community aligned with tourism. Or I'll correct myself in that, is 58% say they're satisfied. So there's still a huge percent of people that are unsatisfied with the job opportunities aligned with tourism. And 80% again say that we need controlled management of tourism and collaborative management of tourism. So we have a job to do. That is undeniable. And yeah, it's a part of a global movement, a huge global movement across the world as well as the country. That is not only answering a need across our country, but also, of course, in Taos. And I believe from that plan, we also have a lot of tangible solutions. We had our first Destination Stewardship Network meeting today, our March monthly meeting. And we laid the groundwork of getting to know one another, but also looking at what are the next action steps going to be. Before I came on, we had formed 3 action teams that are in direct alignment with the deliverables. One action team is surrounding the Cultural Events Fund and funding cultural events in our community. The next action team is around product development, so looking at how can we resource existing or new business development opportunities that involve tourism. And then the third action team is looking at the long-term management structure of the network itself. Because if we want this work to be sustainable, we have to make sure that the folks who are involved in delivering this work is also sustainable and how that organization is managed. So I have to end my introduction with a huge thank you to all of you for believing in this project and for investing in it, in what I understand is a relatively new management structure when it comes to funding of these projects. So I couldn't be more excited, and I hope you keep us in mind in the fiscal year 2026. Happy to take any questions. I'm sure I'll be back with more detailed PowerPoints in the near future.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments? Commissioner Vihil.
More of a comment. I just want to thank you for coming forward today and presenting. I'm very excited about how we're going to move forward and what this looks like for the community. Once again, I think it's a lot of sensitivity around what came out of that, work. And so just wanted to share with all that I think this is really key in we're really taking serious, and I sit on that one of the boards. So we're very sensitive also to what came out of that and making sure that as we're moving forward, we're really looking at the survey and the outcome of what came out of there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jesse, for stepping up and taking on the role. Very important step for the development of the Destination Stewardship Plan. We've been talking about making sure that this plan doesn't just sit on a shelf with 2 years of very good work done by Contessa. So it's been great to have you on board and have the manager's position filled. And it seems like we've taken a long time, but also Jessica and I recognize this was actually kind of fast for government. And that special thanks to our management teams on both sides who really created this funding agreement structure that has been able to speed up the process for a few projects. So we're able to pass money back and forth and work well together. So again, thank you to the commission. I know Jessica's spending and dedicating a lot of her time to the DSP and some other initiatives with the town. So having her as kind of the liaison and the partner between county and town on a number of these projects has been very helpful. And I'm very excited for the next steps. We made this promise to community. It's not going to be a plan. It's an action. And this is a very big first step. So thank all of you. And thank you, Jesse and Contessa, Jessica, and management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman.
Romero.
Yes, at this time, what are the top 1 or 2 priorities for the Destination Stewardship Plan?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Romero. I appreciate that. We're focusing our first year on the second goal of the plan, which is facilitating equitable distribution of the economic benefits of tourism. So both of our action teams are under that, looking at equity when it comes to access of benefits of the tourism economy. So that's our first and foremost focus. But we're also collaborating with Rema, who is the Director of Tourism and Marketing at the town, on stewardship communications and how we can tell authentic stories and make sure to continually involve community and that sensitivity to community and community story when it comes to marketing, as well as looking at Goal 9, which is ensuring sustainable continuation of this project through long-term management structure. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Just for the record, good people come out of Birmingham, Alabama. We have, my wife and I have some good friends over there. So
Okay.
welcome.
Roll Tide.
Okay. Excuse me. Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to make one more comment. Just Jesse mentioned the budget and the funding mechanisms. And as we go into the next budgeting cycle, kind of just wanted to clarify some of the timing. So both the town and the county have contributed equal parts $100,000 into the first year wins. That first year started now. So what's kind of interesting about the timing is that we have funding that is already going to go into fiscal year 26. I am in the process of advocating for additional funding from the county for this next fiscal year to support that goal area 2, which is really that investment in equity-driven access to capital for tourism experiences or business development. And so we don't know what that looks like yet, but I do just want to let you know that while we do have funding that is going to go into this next fiscal year, I think we both as our elected bodies should consider additional funding to make sure that there are robust resources to get through these first year wins. So I just want to invite all of you to consider that in these budget cycles. Thank you. Did you have anything else?
Mr. Chair, now that she brought up that.
Go ahead, Councilor Fambro.
Easily.
$100,000. What did that cover? Was the what fund was it called? What is that fund called?
Councilman Frambo, the American Rescue Plan?
No,
funds,
the
or?
fund that is to be created within the plan. It was one of the first project points.
Oh, the event fund.
The event fund.
Right.
Is part of that $200,000 part of that event fund?
Possibly. So I think what's happening right now and what Jesse is going to work on, and please don't let me speak for you if you would like to speak, she's going to be working with each of those action teams to devise that budget.
Okay.
And really understand kind of the remainder when we take out her contract fee and the fiscal agent fee with Main Street, what's left,
Okay.
Where is that going to be allocated? So that's really the next piece of what's happening.
Okay. And just to know for budget purposes, because we're all going into budget time. So I knew that one event was one of the simple things that we could start sooner than later. So I just wanted to make sure the current funding, at least you have enough to cover that. And thank you, Jesse. I met Jesse cleaning our Saquea de Madre, our Limpia. We went to the Limpia a couple weeks ago. So she was already boots on the ground under her own personal time, I think, just getting involved. So thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may I just one question?
Go ahead, Councilor Ortega.
I know a lot of the work at this point has been a lot of the subcommittees and the advisory, and I was just curious if there's an upcoming community engagement that the bodies should be aware of so that we can be sharing that, promoting it, and ensuring that the continued participation of both constituencies that they know it now it's you. I think there may be like a transition time because everyone is so familiar with Contessa doing this work, and I want to ensure that if there was a moment in time where there will be like a community introduction of you and some of the next steps, like the more upcoming goals, that there would be that type of update as well. It's no direction. I just want people to know that it's you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilor Ortega. I really appreciate that point in question. It is definitely on the top of our minds. We've been waiting a little bit as I'm onboarding. I guess this was week 4. And we want to make sure there's really tangible plans that we can present to community so that they know what we are doing moving forth. So that's the thing we are waiting on. And honoring that speed of trust, but also always considering, okay, when is the right and appropriate time to go out in community again? So definitely on the top of our minds. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate the update.
Thank you so much.
Moving along to 7D, discussion regarding the Regional Film Office. Mr. Mayor Pascual Maestas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the commission for hosting this meeting again. It's been a little while, but it's great to come back and see all these projects that we're working on and remind both of us that we both have a lot at stake, and it's great when we work together, and we're doing a great job of accomplishing some projects. One potential project to consider is the Regional Film Office. This has been in discussion for many, many years, but got brought up again a couple years ago. Commissioner Romero, you may have been the chair at the time. We had an ECOG meeting where for 2 different sessions, we had Ms. Jennifer Labar Tapia come and present before the ECOG and discussed a proposal to expand the Santa Fe Film Office into northern New Mexico. Unfortunately, the conversation got put on the back burner. The fiscal agency between the Santa Fe Film Office was moving from the city to the county, and at the same time, they were a finalist for the Sundance Film Festival. So I think we can completely understand why that conversation got moved to the back burner. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you see it, the film festival, Sundance Film Festival, will not be held in Santa Fe. I think there was a sigh of relief and also a little bit of sadness that they didn't get it. And the transition from fiscal agency is also completed. So Jennifer Labar Tapia has been calling me recently to talk about this proposal again. And not sure what the numbers look like now, but as a reminder, when she came before the ECOG, she had proposed $45,000, which would pay for some money to go to the Santa Fe Film Office, but mostly it would support a local liaison to act as a point of contact between the Taos or Enchanted Circle Regional Film Festival, whatever it turns into, and the Santa Fe Film Festival. Some of the benefits of having this expansion with Santa Fe, they have all the infrastructure ready to go. They've got a website. They've got a permitting process that works with all of the local entities. So if there are streets that need to be shut down, they've got the system that's getting approval from the police chief, the fire chief, public works, all of those. And we wouldn't have to create that. We would essentially get a turnkey film office, a local representative to support, and at what I think a very reasonable cost, $45,000, and that's not each, that would be split however we decide to split. I do want to, there was an article today in the Taos News, pros and cons. I do want to push back on that a little bit to say that a film office doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have all kinds of film. Film can come here without a film office. The benefits of having a film office is that we have a permitting process. We're aware of what's being filmed. There are these instances where we have the opportunity to close down streets, and the police chief may say no. And that could be part of the permitting process, that they say, no, we need that street that day for a public safety reason, and we just don't have those mechanisms in place. So having a film office, while they are tasked with promoting film and some economic development, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to bring in the next Breaking Bad to Taos. The film office really gives us a chance to have some oversight as government to see what's being brought into Taos and track projects, which we don't have the opportunity to do right now. Last thing I'll say is that it's important for us to collaborate on this issue. I know that Ilona is kind of in charge at the Pueblo for their film permits. She said that their process sometimes turns off film producers, and they'll just go right outside of the Pueblo and film where we don't have a permit fee because we don't have a film office. So it's very important for us to be working together, so that way they're not kind of working us against each other, so that way they can film here in Taos. There was a question brought of whether we would be in competition with the Santa Fe Film Office, and Jennifer made a very good point that she doesn't see Northern New Mexico as competition. She's often sending people up here anyway. She said film producers will come in and they'll say, I want a scene at a commission chamber, I want a scene at a restaurant, and I want a scene where there's a beautiful mountain in the back. And, you know, she's going to list a lot of places. Santa Fe doesn't have all those places. Taos doesn't have all those places. But if we're part of the process, she can say, this is what you can get in Taos, this is what you get in Santa Fe, this is what you can get in Colfax. And it's really the producers who are deciding, you know, the types of scenes and things that they want. And I know I keep saying finally, but this will be just the last one, that Jennifer Labar Tapia has been really great for the Santa Fe Film Office. She's emphasized how important it is that you know the industry. Hollywood is all about who you know, and they often talk amongst each other that if they come to Taos and they just say it was just a logistical nightmare, the town and the county weren't working together, they're going to go back and tell everybody, you don't want to go to Taos, it's going to be a hard time for you. However, if they go back and say everything was very smooth, great cooperation between the regional entities, that's going to be attractive to many of the producers. So what I'm proposing, because we would like to kind of get this off as soon as possible, and being that the price is relatively affordable, as much as we would like the ECOG members to become a part of this, I think we can get this going very quickly between town and county and invite the rest of the partners to come on board, so that way we're not delaying the project. We know how hard it is sometimes. We amended the Joint Powers Agreement for the ECOG a couple years ago, and I think it took us close to a year before we got back everybody's signature. They had to take it back to their governing bodies. And even though everyone voted yes and they were on board, we just know the logistics sometimes take some time. So I'd like to propose this to the county, that we jointly begin this project, get this started between the two of us, and bring the rest of the ECOG on board as they are willing and would like to, and start looking for hopefully someone to fill this position. We know it's kind of hard to get these positions filled, but as we're seeing with DSP, when we get the right person on board, really takes everything to the next level. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, may I add something?
Go ahead.
To the comments Mr. Mayor made about some comments that were received in our meeting this week, concerns about pay. I spoke to some people in the industry today and got some information on standard pay in the union, and I just want to share that with you all. So the IATSE 480 is the local union for film here in the state. Minimum hourly wage is $27 per hour. Most hourly wages are in the 30s. Minimum daily benefit package is an additional $135 a day. This goes to retirement and healthcare. Average weekly pay is $2,500 per week. Top hourly pay is $44 per hour and can be negotiated higher. These are all jobs that do not require a college education. They are trained on the job, apprentice on the job, and then you can have a job with a good living. My friend who I spoke to today said business in the state is a little slow right now, but between 2020 and 2024, on average, people working in film were making about $80,000 a year. And I have friends who are working in this industry. They are not experiencing housing insecurity or really job insecurity. So while we are looking at what we can do for our constituency, especially the young people, to build economy for them, just really being smart about how we all work together to make business for film easier in our region, not necessarily making it so easy that we're fully exploited, but just making it easy enough so that business can get done, so that we can see the benefits for our young people. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Hill?
Yes, Mayor, could you speak to the 45,000? Is that an annual fee?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hill, yes, that would be an annual recurring. Depending on whether we would like to expand, I believe in the beginning, Ms. Labar Tapia said the liaison would be part-time. So if we were to ever expand that into a full-time position, it would require some more funding. She did also say that she would not be opposed to the Taos Film Office spinning off to its own film office in the future. We shouldn't be seeing it so much as competition. I think this is a chance for us to get in and have that turnkey operation.
Okay, and another follow-up, how would it be marketed? I mean, who does the marketing for the film office here? You know, highlighting certain areas, or how does that work?
That is a great question. I'd love to connect you with Ms. Jennifer Labar-Tapia. She's doing it well in Santa Fe. I think it'd be not too difficult for her to expand into Taos. But I don't have the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing that I'm thinking about, I know Councilor Oswald talked about this is pretty much jobs that would be on the job trained, but what do you see, or have you had conversations with Santa Fe about how our UNM Taos programs could be connected into this?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Brush, thank you for the question. We have had some conversation. She's well aware of UNM Taos's film program. She's well aware of True Kids 1, as well as Raton Media Works and Raton. So she is, from what I understand of the industry, from her, film is all about collaboration and cooperation. So I think she would see these as all assets. Students who are coming out of UNM are prepared. They'd have to get to be part of the union, but they'd be well prepared with the skills to be part of the workforce. Same thing in Raton. They've got their studio that they're trying to build, and True Kids 1, who are doing some great work already.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 other municipalities in my district. Would you be willing to go speak to them also about this, see if the county as a whole could be involved in this?
Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice Chair, absolutely. We would love everybody to be on board when it gets to that permitting process. Also, Cuesta needs to be on board, for example, if the roads need to get shut down over there. So I think the only reason I'm offering this today between town and county is just so we can get started very quickly. But the sooner we can get everybody on board, the smoother the process is going to be for everybody. So if Cuesta wants to jump on immediately, I think I would say yes. I'm just thinking about the logistics of the JPA or however it's going to work in the funding agreements.
And the reason I ask is, way back in the day when I was in law enforcement, they would contract law enforcement to do their security, and we tended to do a lot up in the Upper Valley, Red River, the Pass, so even up in Taos Key Valley. So if we could contact those other municipalities, see if they want to get involved in this.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I know Mayor Calhoun is very interested. She and I spoke together at the Governor's Conference on Tourism last year, both in support of the Regional Film Office and discussion of use of lodger's tax for funding of the film office. It was there that we actually made this connection with Santa Fe, and come to find out that they use lodger's tax to fund their film office. We had a presentation from Ms. Karina Armijo a couple years ago to the ECOG, and at the time she presented the proposal of creating our own film office, and her number was $250,000. And at the time we were unsure of whether we could use lodger's tax or not, and that's kind of why that conversation at the time kind of fell off. The use of general fund and the number together, just it wasn't, made it a little bit more difficult.
Thank you. Any other comments, Commissioner Romero?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I do recall the ECOG meeting that we had about a year ago when this topic was discussed, and a number of other communities were involved in the discussion also. And it looks like it would be another good opportunity for collaboration. Still a little unclear as to what the connection with Santa Fe office would be. There would be a Taos office and continuing to work with the Santa Fe office, and then also a little unclear on the question of can we use lodger's tax?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Romero, Santa Fe has demonstrated that we can use Lodger Sachs. They've been using it for several years to film their film office. And remind me again your first question of the different.
How would
two
that
offices.
work? How would that collaboration work with the Santa Fe office?
The proposal was that we would pull some funds together and contract with the Santa Fe Film Office. So it'd be government to government to government. And the employee, I think, would be an employee of the Santa Fe Film Office. However, they would be based here in Taos to be that liaison. Where they are placed, I think that's something we could have a conversation about. We have some potential locations at the town, like the Brick, which is another exciting initiative. Didn't get on the agenda because we've got a lot on the agenda today, but potentially there in the offices in the back, or potentially here. I did want to also mention that we had some discussion about this at our council workshop a couple of weeks ago. I think, and would love to hear all of your opinions on it, but I think it makes more sense for this to be held at the county. The town is very small. We've got 5 square miles. And although many of the lodging establishments and food is going to come out of the town, I don't think there's going to be that much actual film that's probably in town. I think most of the filming is probably going to be in the county or outside of the town limits. However, we know that there are sometimes capacity issues. I think we would be willing to host it in the beginning. And just like how we saw in Santa Fe, where it transitioned from city to county, that's something that we could explore in the future too. But we're open to hearing your thoughts on where the Santa Fe Film Office expansion into Taos would be located.
Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Mayor. Would it be maybe possible to get a presentation from the Santa Fe Film Office themselves? Because what I'm hearing is that, okay, we know what the thing that we know most, or what I'm hearing that's most specific is how much it would cost for us to pay it. Granted, and don't get me wrong, exciting industry, great jobs, but I feel like we still have maybe some more work to be done, like Vice Chair Romero said, to bring our other communities on board, to understand what exactly we'd be getting for our investment. I mean, do we need to create a permitting process, or are we just like piggybacking on theirs? Like, I feel like personally, I need a few more details before I say, yep, it's cheap, so let's sign on. I feel like we have a little bit more groundwork to lay, and maybe a presentation from the Santa Fe Film Office would help us understand what exactly we're in the process of setting up before we even decide where it lives.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Brush, thank you. I'd ask, can I send you the links? Because she's given several presentations, one before the ECOG, one before the town. I think she may answer all those questions in some of the recordings. And if we're getting very close, I think she would like to come back up again if we have it on the agenda and we're getting to that point where we're thinking about making it a reality.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Chair. I watched that ECOG meeting, but I just think that it would be helpful. I mean, if this is something, another important effort that we're going to be investing in, I think it would be important to have this joint body with her together to have that conversation rather than just, us on our own time going off and looking at the recording. But that's just my perspective.
Thank you. Councilor Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. And Jeanette, or Commissioner Brush, thank you. This is a reasonable request, and we all also wanted more information. I would like to just highlight that to me, what seems most important in the conversation we're all having right now is that there will be ordinances that have to get written, and you will all supersede us. So we should work together to write those ordinances to make sure that whatever takes place in the town is what's also taking place in the county. Vice Chair Romero, that will also enable those smaller communities in the county to have guidelines as well for how they want to write those ordinances or resolutions for their communities. And then one of the great benefits, just to highlight, that if we partner with Santa Fe to start, and this was important to me, that we may someday want to have our own office, and how could we use that relationship to benefit and catalyze something like that. But what they have is a permitting process that has a robust backside. So all of those interagencies that have to get permitted, they have created really good infrastructure in their web process to receive a request for permit, and then it goes out to all of those agencies. So in my opinion, that is worth every penny they're asking for in itself. But I would happily join for another presentation from Ms. Tapia from Santa Fe. Found her presentation to be very informative and supportive of the cause.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councilor Ortega.
I'm in complete agreement with that, Commissioner Brush, and that support request is very reasonable. I also add that I'm not touching it. At our last community workshop that we held at the U.S. Bank, we did have a community member present who's in Ranchos de Taos, who purchased the old St. Francis de Assisi, the old school, and the trajectory of that goal is to have it be a production site. And so I think our agreement in having a county-wide agreements and understandings so that younger people who are coming back home and making really big moves, taking really bold risks, financial risks, to pursue their passion for film, that we're not part of any obstacle impeding that. And I think that's really exciting on the south end of town in Ranchos, seeing that that space be potentially renovated and put into a whole new design and use is it's what we've asked younger generations to do. And if this is a direction where there's job viability, financial security, job security, in addition to employing our colleagues, our friends, our classmates, I think it bodes well and deserves as many conversations as it needs to have. And not just with this respected body. Chair Romero, I agree, our other municipalities such as Cuesta, Mayor Ortega is always willing to, he's so supportive of all the things we do on this end. So same for Red River. So I think it's just a very exciting space to be. So just so you all knew that public comment really, for me, I was like, wow, that's a big investment to undertake with the hopes of doing film in Taos County. So just so you know that exists.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for the presentation and information. I think it's something well worth looking into, and hopefully we can move forward. Moving right along to 7E, discussion regarding Matanza update, Mr. Lucas Salazar. And company.
And company, plus one. Come on up, Lucas. So good afternoon, Taos County Commission, Mayor, Town Council, and community members. Most importantly, TCDC team that took time to be here, our board members that are here as well, and our community supporters that took their time to be here as well. So I think, again, we thank you for the opportunity to present. I think this is the first time that we've had to bring Lucas Salazar into the picture to really give a more general and more specified direction of the project and update as to what to look forward to. I know we've been caught a little in the where are we, how we're moving forward, and all the logistics that need to happen behind, what this effort is bringing forth. But I think it's always really important to also highlight the importance of this collaboration, this public-private sector collaboration we hear everywhere. All of the efforts right now within the community are pointing exactly to that, to us trying to move forward in helping each other through the processes. Right now for any nonprofit within our community is a real concern what's happening federally and funds being pulled from a lot of our partners, for what is happening. So community, partnerships like Taos Community Foundation having, an economic summit or meeting today. It was called something else. But anyway, it really points to the fact that we need to talk to each other more. We really need to be aware of all the needs. We really need to be aware of what the community stance is on certain topics, and being able to voice frustration, with the federal stance right now. It's going to be a real topic at hand for all of us. Losing funding is a critical component of TCDC. So if we were to lose funding, then, things can come to the stop. So I think that as a community, we really need to stand together. I thank the county. I thank the town, for the participation you guys have had so far. We look forward to continuing that, and it's something that TCDC and the rest of the nonprofit community within our county really counts on. And so without further ado, I think that Lucas is the star here today. And then we'll stand by for any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us today, everyone. And I think the first thing I want to mention is just to kind of piggyback off what Mercedes was saying, and the vulnerability of entities when they are reliant on grants. And this is one of the really exciting things about this Matanza project, is that I see a really clear pathway to be economically viable and sustaining on its own 2 feet. Now, is it going to do that in the very short term? No. I think this subsidy, essentially, that we're facilitating with a lot of partners, is a necessary step to get the ball rolling and off the ground. I know for doing this industry for 15 years at a small scale, that you're gonna be doing it a lot off your own back and on a shoestring when you start up, and you're probably going to take on a significant amount of debt in order to get something so capital intensive to actually move. So by having these subsidies, we get to avoid that part. We get to focus on the work. We get to focus on the quality. But I do believe in quite short term, this thing can sustain itself. And so then I just want to kind of share two just kind of economic the first is like a truth, and then the next one's kind of like a forecast. So the first one is right now, anybody in this region who's raising cattle, if they go take it to the sale barn, which is virtually the model around here, is a cow-calf model, where once the calf is weaned, it's going to the sale barn to not have to take it over to that next winter, because that can be an expensive process. You're trying to get the cow off the mom so she can recover and feed decently in the winter before she's going to have another calf in the late winter or early spring. Typically, that's the typical model. So when you take that calf to the sale barn, you're going to get $1,500 to $2,000. That's typically what you're getting. And so that's what virtually everyone around here is getting and doing. So now look at the next steps in the process of getting, a pound of ground beef or a steak back on our plate from, say, Albertsons. Then there's another $1,500 to $2,000 that goes into either, if the animal's big enough, it might go directly to a feedlot. If it's a little smaller, it might go to a stalker who's going to maybe put it on grass for a little bit longer to get it to a certain weight. Then it'll go to the feedlot. So that process in there is about a $1,500 to $2,000 process there after you stick on the processing piece. So that is where we're missing, it's a huge margin. If we can figure out that infrastructure, boom, that value per animal we can capture. And then there's the retailing or the sale phase that goes after that, which if you're talking about like a piece by piece kind of sale, like at a deli counter, like Smith's or Albertsons or Sid's even, then you're adding another $2,000 or beyond that. That's how they survive. They make that end cut. So really rough numbers, just to think about real simply, you think kind of like 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, which that last 4,000, we're basically foregoing. We're not putting that back into our community in any way, except for maybe you could argue like a little bit of employment from Albertsons or a little bit of employment from Smith's. But essentially that corporate entity is taking that rest of that cut. So big opportunity. So that's the truth. That's the way the meat industry works. That's the big opportunity that we're missing, and that large industry has really taken by these amazing, to give them the credit, is an amazing feat of engineering There's these huge slaughter facilities in Greeley, Colorado, that are able to do 4,000 beef a shift, and maybe they'll do 2 shifts a day. So these are the kinds of scales that they're operating at. So now to look at the projections of, say, I'm just using the number of 2,000, just using some rough numbers. Say that that's what we retain by keeping. I believe it's actually higher, but just look what this does. So phase 1 of the mobile Matanza, this is using the mobile unit that we already have in possession that has been refurbished, that is ready to go. So as soon as we could get the processing part done, which you want to say roughly is halfway complete and halfway on the ground, then we will immediately be at about a 20 beef per week capacity. And so if we're retaining a $2,000 value for our community right there, that's 80 per month, 960 per year, that's $1.92 million. This is like kind of the low end of the estimate of what this is kind of spreading out to our farmers, to our processors, to our labor force. And then phase 2, once we get a stationary unit, which I think is critical to the project, I think what we're going to see happen is that mobile unit can get us by in the short term to kind of prove concept, but it's a pretty cumbersome way to slaughter the animals because you're stuck in this like one at a time in the really small space to do the work. And, in an actual engineered system where we can be doing multiple carcasses at a time, we're going to have efficiencies of 3 and 4 and maybe even like 5 times. So believe we're going to move to that while we move the mobile unit into serving more exotic species like bison and yak, and for certain folks who are really needing that on-site slaughter. But as soon as the stationary comes on, it'll be easy to imagine we're doubling that. So then we're retaining 4 million in the community. And that's still with the first hanging room that is already sitting out there by county ops. That's all the space that we need to do that. And we know for sure so far through the engineering, the water engineering, we're going to have capacity at least to add 1 more of those. So then you double that. That becomes 8 million. And we'll see what happens with the wastewater in the end. This is kind of where our project is kind of stalled at the moment. We have contracted the wastewater engineers, and they have done great work in short order to get us to where we're ready to pull our permits. But we have some roadblocks with getting that permit submitted to the environmental department. But we're working through all that, and I'll be happy to answer the questions and the details on that. So I think I think that's fine. I think that we should just go ahead and leave it there. I wanted to make really clear that there's a lot being left on the table, and this is true for rural communities across the whole country by the megacorp influence and them basically taking that infrastructure of the processing out of the hands of like a local kind of local capacity that has left this huge opportunity for the people who are willing and able to get a system that can do this work together. But I think I'm going to do better to answer questions on the project now and where we're at. So feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Salazar. Commissioner Vehil.
Thank you, Lucas. Could you speak a little bit more directly about your experience in the industry and your background? I think it would be very helpful for folks to understand when you stand here why you have such knowledge.
Absolutely, Commissioner Vehil. Yeah. So I'm a 6th generation rancher farmer raised in Manassas, Colorado. I was raised chasing around after these cows with my grandpa and fixing the fences and all that stuff. And I'm kind of an interesting case because while I did all that work and know how to drive tractors and all that fun stuff that you learn how to do on a ranch, people really didn't expect me to be. They were like the last one they expected. They saw me as, well, I'm the country kid. They kind of saw me as the city kid. But it's interesting. I did that life. I went to college in California. I studied sociology there. I became a teacher. Now I got my master's in education, taught for 4 years in total, and then was kind of like U-turning on. I didn't know what I was going to do next, frankly. It was kind of U-turning on my career. And I come home and, the family had always talked about how we're going to add more value to the cattle herd, how we're going to add more value. And the idea of some kind of value adding, like jerky was the main thing. And jerky, anyone who loves jerky, it's pretty wild, right? Like how teeny of a portion you get, right? Like it's like the old Santa Fe Trail, for example. Now, you go into the gas stations, that really dry New Mexico style of jerky, and you're talking like $13 and silver for like a 2 ounce. It's not a whole lot of what you get for what you're paying, it seems like. And so you can imagine that could be kind of seductive on a napkin kind of business plan. Like, wow, like it's $100 a pound. We're going to be rich. Well, what you don't know is that's a very cumbersome process. That's capital intensive. Okay, well, $100 a pound, but guess what? A New Mexican like proper style of jerky, like Old Santa Fe Trail, is going to have a yield of even south of 30% of its green weight. So, there's as a little rough economic, if it was that $10 when it was wet in a top brown, you're going to usually use like a top brown, bottom round type cuts, these big lean cuts usually from the back end of the animal to create jerky. So if that was worth $10, then you take all that water out of it, all of a sudden that base cost is already at $30. So now you got to do marketing, you got to get all of the labor, all of the packaging, the distribution. And that's why jerky that's dried out that much costs $100 a pound. You see other kinds of jerkies like Jack Links and stuff that people don't seem to like as much around here, but that are really moist. Like, how come those can be so much cheaper? Well, they have twice as much water weight. They're using preservatives and all this fun stuff in those to keep the water in there. So you're buying a lot more water than you are protein. A proper New Mexican style jerky is like almost pure protein kind of thing. So anyways, I know a lot of jerky because we naively got into the jerky business. And I sold it here. I mean, some of you know, I sold it here at the farmer's market for 10 years. But that's related to why this is like, that's when I made the highest margins. When I was working in the business, we're raising the animals, we're slaughtering them all right there. And then I actually came to the Taos farmer's market and I sold it. So we didn't have any middlemen. It was vertically integrated. And when I could do that, my actual margin on my product was super high. COVID hit, that ended up spooking me out of the farmer's market because I didn't think there was going to be clientele in those years during COVID. But what happened in COVID for us that kind of shifted our business model that made it still work really well is everyone went online. And so all of a sudden we kind of shifted our model to less small direct sales and more bulk direct sales. And that worked really well during COVID. We would fill up a freezer like on a trailer and then take them up from, we on our website, we were delivering all the way from Albuquerque to Denver, basically that corridor. And that's how you make margin when you're small is you have to cut all that middleman stuff. And that is very analogous to what this model is. It's trying to cut out those middlemen so it's more for the family, so to speak. But at this kind of scale and this idea, that's us. It's for us.
Mr. Sunset, we had a pretty good conversation yesterday, and I have two commissioners that raise cattle. Mr. Flores raised cattle. Can we use that example like we did yesterday? Somebody like Mr. Flores could benefit from the Matanza, somebody that has a herd in.
So I'm going to put on my ranch hat for the conversation. All right, we get down to business. So I want to kind of put my analogy into place. So I'm a small producer. I have about 10 to 15 head of cattle that I raise here in Rancho Taos off of family land. Raising alfalfa and that production of it can be very expensive. Managing your herd, maintaining your herd. We have historically produced beef for my family. My grandfather did that. He had a family of 5 children. He would slaughter about 2 head of cattle, split it up, give some to my mom, some to my aunt, and some to my uncle. It gets to a point where you need to be able to make money to be able to sustain that herd. Currently, as Mr. Salazar is speaking, if I were to take my livestock to the sale barn, which I just recently took 2 head of cattle recently, and it got $1,800 to $1,900 per head for, we'll call it about a 1,200 pound animal, 1,000 pounds. If I were not to do that, and if I were to take it to a butcher and have it slaughtered, and take that 1,000 pounds of beef, we'll call it for an easy multiplication, and sell it for a grass-fed price of like $8 to $9 a pound for just ground beef. A typical side of beef, just a half of a cow of beef, produces about 100 pounds of ground beef. So you multiply 100 pounds times $9, that's $9,000 that I could roughly get off a half side of beef. When you take into multiplication of the steaks that you're paying, that you will buy for like a grass-fed steak. So at Albertsons in the grocery store, your standard steaks, or a ribeye steak is about $15 a pound. I'll say right now, it could be a little bit more. Grass-fed beef or natural beef, $20 a pound around there. You get so many cuts of that, and you start doing the multiplications. If somebody's small like me, a small-time producer, can in reality keep that beef here, sell that beef to local people that would not be buying hormone injected, steroid injected, antibiotic injected beef. And you know, I hate to say it like that, but that's what the store-bought beef really is. They have to inoculate it and feed it antibiotics and hormones to get it to the size at those stockyards in order to make a profit. So somebody like me that wants to retain my culture and my tradition and be able to reinvest in the land, reinvest in my community, you know, those prices that I'm talking about, we want to make it, what would be the word? We want to make it affordable to be able to sell here locally. So I'm talking about the high margins. But at the end of the day, with the Mobile Matanza project that we're looking to invest in, ranchers could start investing in their land. They could grow their herds. It's very important that we retain our cultural traditions, our agricultural traditions. We're finding that people are selling their land, or they're not irrigating their lands to produce hay because it costs too much. Now, if we have something locally where a rancher could take their animal and produce beef off of that, get it into local restaurants, maybe get it into some local grocery stores, that ability to sustain our culture and our traditions, local people like myself that are raising families. I have 2 daughters in college. We are able to make a better living. You know, there's a lot that goes into raising animals, and it's not just money. You know, we don't do it for the money, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of value added production to what the Mobile Matanza would bring to our community. It would reinvigorate agriculture. It would probably, more than likely, a lot of the farmers and ranchers we're not able to make a living anymore, and our people are suffering. This would give some economic viability to our community, and I think it's very important that we invest in something like this. I stand in front of you today as a local farmer and a rancher, not as a government official, even though, you know, I'm sitting there on the side there. It's important that we look at how can we reinvest in our land, how can we keep our land alive, and how can we support an ancient culture, an ancient tradition that is dying off. And if we allow that to die off, we're not going to be able to talk about it anymore. It's going to be something of the past. So I think by investing in the Matanza project, we're keeping history, tradition, culture. We're introducing another form of economy into our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, and thank you, Lucas. So what I'm hearing is we're going to keep the money here in Taos. I mean, we're gonna be able to. Our ranchers are going to be able to make more, keep more in their pockets because they don't have to use that model that currently folks are using. And the second thing is what I'm hearing is we have the ability to eat healthy meat. That's you know, just healthy food.
certainly healthier than what the corporate entities are putting on our plate. Yeah, and so I think an important point to elaborate a little more on what Mark just said. So that's a lot of work, and again, it's great. The more of our local ranchers who are willing to take on that responsibility of figuring out their slaughtering dates and figuring out their labeling and figuring out their distribution, the more money they're going to be able to keep in their own pocket. But we know that that's not going to work for everybody. We want to promote that as much as we can through this project. But there's going to be a lot of growers who don't want to take that part on. So then how can this project benefit them? And so the plan for that contingent, which I think is going to actually be the majority contingent here, is going to be the folks who don't want all that hassle of the direct marketing, because it is a lot. Doing it for 15 years, it's a lot. So we want to create a buyer barn that outperforms any of the local sale barns. And the way I see this working to benefit the rancher and to gain a lot of traction from our side as the sustainability piece for the business. So we need a consistent supply. How are we as a business going to guarantee that consistent supply? Well, they have to want to sell to us. And to make them want to sell to us, we outperform the market. So what I'm proposing, and we haven't solidified these policies yet, but I'm thinking something like a 10% above market. So we'll review what La Junta or Monte Vista or those are the two main ones that I think folks are using around here. And then guarantee them 10 cents over that market. But then they also will save, because those marketers, they charge the 5 cent fee. So they'll save 15 cents. They'll make 15 cents more immediately by coming to us, but they'll also save on their time because we're a lot closer to them, and they'll save on and their gas and the wear and tear on their vehicle and everything. Those trips, with most like say like a F-250 carrying 10 cattle down the road, you're lucky to get 10 miles a gallon on your diesel. And so anytime we can help them in that regard, that's a benefit too. So I think the local farming community is just going to start seeing that and realizing that this is the best bet, actually, to come aggregate our animals here, and then we create our own local label, and we're putting them as much as we can into our institutions, local, just even direct sales. And then, it's interesting, the question about the retail, because like selling to Sid's is a lot different than selling to Smith's, and is different than selling to Albertsons. So to me, it's like we would need to intelligently create kind of the triage of our sales that does keep as much of the pie locally as we can. And so maybe like the Smith and the Albertsons are kind of like our fallback sale plan after we get it all dealt with locally as much as we can.
Mr. Salazar, quick question.
Yes, sir.
So are you saying that this beef would be, because you mentioned antibiotics, you mentioned vaccinations, you mentioned several years ago, I had in a span of a 2-week period, I had about 12 cows die. If you can imagine what kind of impact that takes, after meeting with the cattle inspector and the veterinarian and everything else, we determined that, so moving forward, I vaccinate my cows with 8-way and do a respiratory up the nose for the calves. And I haven't had that problem afterwards. Is that going to be an issue for my herd with moving forward with these cows?
Yeah, no. And I think that's a great question. And there's like a whole spectrum, right, of like how radical you get about keeping the animals so free from any kind of medical intervention or whatever. And I think all those recommended vaccines are really smart for your herd health. And I mean, that's like a catastrophic loss, what you just explained. And the framework, again, we haven't set it in stone yet, but what we're trying to develop is an antibiotic free, which that would be per incident kind of use thing, right, as the animal grew, and no hormones or artificial hormones injections. And then that the animal has raised its life on pasture. And with that kind of simple, kind of broad, we keep the junk out of the meat, and we make sure that's grass fed, but we don't start needing all these third party audits on the ranchers, because that's going to become burdensome. If we start saying we want it organic, that's a lot of money and time and hassle for the rancher to go organic certified. And even the American Grass-Fed Association, that's a lot cheaper, but there's still some burden to do that audit. So to me, it seemed to make sense because it's basically the way everyone's raising their animals anyway. And so if you did have that one that didn't need to get treated by antibiotics, we'll maybe expect some kind of protocol where you notch its ear tag or something, and that one does actually go to the sale barn. But then every other animal that you produce, as long as it gets up to 1,000 pounds, because that's just important for the efficiency of the economics of, making the numbers work, then you could sell us as many animals as you want.
Well, as you know, as of last year, of June of 2024, us, the rancher, can no longer buy antibiotics over the counter. We need a prescription to get antibiotics. And in order to get a prescription, you need to have a local veterinarian prescribe it based on your situation. So antibiotics no longer are readily available just to walk into Tractor Supply or any other to purchase them anymore. So I think that helps the situation that you're speaking to. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Lucas. I really wanted to thank you for your presentation last night. I got to attend. Manager Jaramillo and Chris were able to enjoy some really good Frito pies. But I think what really stood out is your expertise. I saw all the questions. You were getting questions from the audience left and right, and very evident that in your 15 years of working in Manassa, which we'll call northern New Mexico, it is showing that you are bringing an expertise that is going to make this program viable from the beginning, and it's going to help our local ranchers. Seeing all those portions of funding that the big companies are coming down, they're buying our cattle, they're fattening them up, they're slaughtering them, and then they're selling them back to us and keeping all the money. Really is going to go a long way to help our farmers and ranchers. The numbers, I think, were great. $8 million potentially staying here. Not only are we feeding ourselves, but we're keeping the money, we're eating better. We know our farmers and ranchers love our cattle and take good care of them. They're living good lives. They're not living in the feedlots. And excited for this project. I know we've got a couple hurdles, and Assistant Manager Flores is going to present before the council in executive session soon to talk about those hurdles and what we can do to get over that. But I think this program, the potential for this program to impact our communities is huge. And I just want to highlight one more thing, that North Central New Mexico Economic Development District was here doing their comprehensive economic development strategy, their SEDS meeting. And Ms. Jillian Joyce made a very great point that the acequias exist because of cattle. And that if we lose our cattle, we are potentially at the loss of our acequias. And they are so important for our culture. We're talking about how do we develop an acequia tour so it relates to tourism. It's the green belt has been created by our acequia system. And I think many of us have forgotten that cattle play a very important role in that green belt. So this is a great project. Excited to be supportive of it. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on this project. People were pulling me aside yesterday saying, how did you get Lucas to get over here?
Well, thank you, Mayor. And you can thank my wife for that. She wasn't going to have it in Manassa. That's one of the big reasons I'm here. My kids are here, my wife's here, and I love Taos. But thank you so much, Mayor. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salazar. Moving right along to item 8A, future discussion on updates and opportunities for alignment between the historic courthouse and U.S. Bank building.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
It's something that we're not prepared to present on, just something that myself and Ms. Stern were talking about, that going forward, we're maybe over a year away from historic county courthouse being finished, but we need to start thinking about programming, what's going to be going in the first floor of the courthouse. And we don't want to repeat anything the town may be thinking about. I know you guys are not, the town's not there yet, but maybe both staffs can work together. So we're not competing against each other, but working with each other. Maybe something goes in the courthouse, maybe it's better served in the bank building. I don't know if this would be an exact topic for next joint meeting, but something that for us to both work on. We're not competing with each other. So I just wanted to see if this is something that the county and the town would like us to pursue. So
I think it makes sense. Okay. Councilor Oswald.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manager Jaramillo, for inviting that question. And one thing I would say is that the large mural room in your building is spectacular. And when I taught yoga, I always wanted to teach yoga in that room and never had an opportunity to. But I bring that up because I see that space as a multi-use space that could be used for so many different community gatherings. So I know you didn't ask about upstairs, but I just wanted to share that. That is such a beautiful building, and it is a historical landmark. It is a cultural treasure. And often people are saying we need like a historic museum of some sort down in the center of town, some sort of feature that was demonstrative of the history of our community in your building, I think would be absolutely a beautiful attribute to the plaza and to our community. So thank you for inviting that.
Chair, Mayor, Council Member Oswald, we are looking at maybe, not looking at maybe, we're going to be doing a request for proposal down the road for a type of museum service and management for that on the second floor, along with the mural room. We had actually put out an RFP to help us think about that programming, but nobody responded to the RFP. Not for a museum, let me correct that, and Jessica can explain that better than I can.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, councilors and commissioners. Yes, the RFP that we issued before the end of the year really was to create an operational plan for all of the various elements of the historic courthouse, both being how can the downstairs spaces be used for various business incubation maker spaces, retail, all different kinds of opportunities, the interpretive opportunities that are downstairs with the old jail, perhaps some visitor guidance. We're not talking about a visitor center on the first floor of the courthouse, but some sort of touch point. And then thinking about how to operate a historical interactive museum, something experience on the upstairs, on the second floor, along with how to activate that mural room as a community space. So we're still trying to think about how to pull all those pieces together. What does a property manager or operator of all of those various elements look like? Because that's a lot of different things and a lot of different skills. But we want to be able to think about maximizing all of the incredible treasures that are in that building and how it's going to bring locals and visitors into that space, because it really is meant for both. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vihil.
Thank you, Chair. Question for the mayor or council members in regards to the U.S. Bank. I know you have held several meetings. Can you, and I certainly wasn't able to attend, can you kind of give us an idea what you're hearing, what the thoughts are in regards to what that might look like?
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
We're all formal. Thank you, Commissioner Vigil. The last few working sessions that we've had on site with the building, it appears that our intention and prospective focus is for youth and arts. We've had several visits from Moving Arts Española with Mr. Roger Montoya. He was actually with us at our last session and immediately was so inspired by the space and excited. And so I know part of, I believe we are kind of in a consensus that we do want to ensure that it's a space for families and youth. But the second story still remains. But the bottom part is we're hopefully going to be envisioning and have an RFP of how that space could be used for multi-use, multi-art forms, and engagement with our, whether that's a nonprofit or we haven't crossed that bridge of how we will do it. But at the moment, it seems like to serve youth, children, and families within that realm. If I missed anything, everyone else is welcome to join in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just add, we may have to learn from you because the second floor, I think the reason why you are doing a lot of this reconstruction is the elevator to get up to the mural building, the mural room. We have that similar issue with the second floor, that it's not ADA accessible. So another reason why we should work together, I think we could learn a lot of lessons from the courtroom reconstruction, so that we were doing the same thing.
Chair, if I could just comment on what they have spoken about. I would say that sounds great. Honestly, youth and arts, I think that would really bring a lot of life to the plaza. And I'm so grateful that you're all considering, because I know as we move forward, that is one of our considerations. How do we get folks from Taos to really feel like the plaza is theirs? It's not just for tourists. And certainly we welcome them as well. But we really want to bring that youth, that vibrant, energy to the plaza. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? All right. Moving right along to 9, matters and reports from the Town of Taos Council. Anything else you would like to discuss?
Mr. Chair, may I? I was appointed last year and reappointed this year to the fledgling Northern Rio Grande RC&D Board. And we had a meeting yesterday, and we are eager for the county to join us and appoint a member. Okay, I've shared the information.
She was looking at you, Commissioner Beal.
Well, if I may, Chair, say that I think that it is important to have some representation from the county. And oh yes, look forward. And also welcome this coming before the commission to, speak amongst ourselves as to who we think would be able to have the time and certainly interested in it. Thank you.
And certainly, if your commission needs more information, Peter V. Hill at Soil and Water can provide you with that information.
Thank you for that, and we'll look into that. Anyone else from the City Council? Go ahead, Councilor Bramble.
Mr. Chair, nothing, just to really, this is like historic, and there's not very many counties and municipalities in the state of New Mexico that actually can sit up here, have a conversation, agree on stuff. Yeah, behind the scenes, we fight out the problems that we do have, which are better to do. But I know we go to our municipal league conferences and people say, you talk to your county people? I said, yes. You meet with your county people? And I say, yes. And so it's very rare, I guess, throughout the state that people don't do that. So I think we should applaud all ourselves up here and all our staff to work together that we do. I know they're probably frustrated with all of us too at sometimes, but they do their best. So I think it's really I don't know how we present that to the public. We do have great public right here, and they all are very interested in what we're doing, but they're helping us. And so it's just I don't know how we do come sign some kind of ceremony whenever we get these things done, that we do it jointly and we acknowledge what we've done together. And the last thing I have to say, I think when the Matanza project is actually done, that the groundbreaking is Mr. Flores' animal. I mean something, because gosh, we want that done. So I just had to acknowledge that, because I do hear around when I go to our meetings, and I'm sure you do on the county side, that you work with your county, and yeah, we do. We do as best as we can. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair. No budget stuff, no.
Thank you. Hold on. You're good? Okay, all right.
Okay, I just want to, oh,
Mayor Watts?
okay.
I just want to say thank you also, that it's been a little while since we had one of these, but we are really breaking molds. Even, I look to what we're doing with Main Street and being the only town, county, Main Street three-way partnership in the state that we're breaking the mold around the state, and we're making a lot of things happen. And I just really want to thank all of you for being partners and coming to the table, and to our staff, because even this meeting alone took a couple months to organize everybody's schedule, and we know it can be tough. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Now we'll go to the county side. Commissioner Beal.
Sorry about that, folks. No, I just want to say that we do like each other, and we do disagree at times, but we all know that disagreement is not a bad thing, right? And so we do it respectfully, and I think at the end of the day, boundaries, we have to erase those boundaries, because we're one community, the community of Taos, and it encompasses all of Taos. Town of Taos is part of Taos County. It is. So I think that we all know that up here, and I hope that we continue to demonstrate that to the community, that at the end of the day, it's all about who we serve and why we serve. So very, very happy to be part of this team.
Commissioner Brush, and then we'll go to Commissioner Romero.
I just have something very quick, but it's nevertheless an important matter. And I want to just thank Ms. Anissa Arambidi and other staff for making this sound system sound so great today.
So
Commissioner Romero.
Yes, thank you. Staying with on the issue or the topic of collaboration, the issue of regional and regionalization and collaboration of water systems is becoming a very urgent topic. In fact, it's actually happening. The Llano Quemado Mutual Domestic and the Valle de los Ranchos Water and Sanitation District are having public hearings to actually merge their systems so they can provide more efficient service to their customers. Of course, the town of Taos is a very big player in this, because town is the biggest water system that we have, has most water rights, most infrastructure, and so on. And of course, the county does not operate a water or wastewater system, but some counties do. But in the Taos County Comprehensive Plan that we're finalizing right now, we have language that proposes to form a regionalization water committee that could provide the necessary structure for regionalization and collaboration of the many diverse water systems that we have just within the Taos Valley and throughout the Taos County. So I'd like to propose that we have this topic on the next joint meeting between the town of Taos and the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Romero. And by the way, the southern part of the county has already started that. Peñasco and Rodarte have already merged or in the process of merging. And they're talking Rio Lucio to possibly make that happen in the near future as well. Those are just a couple of the mutual domestics. With that being said, Vice Chair Vihil is, I mean, Romero's looking at me over there, but County Manager Jaramillo.
Well, and I wasn't going to put him on the spot, but now I will. And he's ready to get out of here. He's not feeling well, but for those of you that don't know, he said it, and he said my three other municipalities, Commissioner Miguel Romero has all four municipalities within his district. So a portion of the town of Taos is also in District 2. So he has the three other municipalities plus a portion of the town of Taos. Manager Martinez is wanting a group photo after adjournment. So we could have that photo real quick.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Vice Chair. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Brush.
Is there a motion from the council?
So,
Is there a second?
second.
Say, all in favor?
Aye.
Do you want us to stand up? Yeah. And then get a little closer. Again, sir. Everyone can. Good here. That is so awesome. Thank you for listening to us. It's on record. Thank you.